Family only, he smirked. So I left the $3,740 bill for them to choke on. I'm Daniel, 31, and this is what occurred the evening that I realized my family did not have me as family. It wasn't some big blowout. There was no screaming or table flipping. It wasn't like that. It just sort of was more low-key than that. More low-key and somehow colder. It was going to be a wedding. My little brother Brandon had just gotten engaged to Kelsey, a woman I'd known for years. I helped him plan the whole shebang, booked the venue, designed the invitations, even helped pay the deposit at the Pearl Room, a trendy rooftop bar he and Kelsey fell in love with on a night out. They said they'd pay me back. They never did. After all, I didn't care. I figured that was what big brothers were for. You show up, you support. You make the people you're fond of look good. It didn't even bother me when they asked me to stay behind the scenes during dinner, their exact words. I assumed that was code for standing back and allowing them to be in the spotlight, which was perfectly okay by me. But the moment I walked into that room and saw the seating chart, I knew what kind of night it was going to be. The sign was enormous, elegant gold letters on a whiteboard. Table 1, family. Table 2, friends. Table 3, extended family. And then down at the very bottom, in black letters that didn't match the rest, overflow, Daniel. Not even a table. A fold-up chair wedged against the service door, right next to the trash cans. I figured it was a joke at first. Somebody would have to emerge and beckon me over and laugh like, "Just kidding, you're with us." But nobody did. When Brandon finally caught my eye from the other side of the room, he lifted his glass and winked. Then, with a voice the crowd around him heard, declared, "Sorry, this table's for family only." They all laughed. I just nodded and went to the corner. I sat there next to a stack of extra tablecloths and a mop bucket and watched them party. Toast to toast, Brandon's friends rose and spun tall tales of college adventures. Kelsey's sister gave a tearful oration that moved their mom to tears. Duck confit and garlic roasted potatoes coursed down the head table like we were sitting for a magazine shoot. Nobody spoke to me. I didn't even have a server. I had to stand up and wave one down to order water. I cracked open my own champagne, the one I had brought, since I knew Brandon would not offer to bring something I liked. I sat alone for over 2 hours, pretending not to care as my chest hurt as if it were being sucked inward. And then the second that changed my life. I caught sight of the event coordinator, the one I initially made contact with, heading in our direction with a leather folder holding checks in her hand. She looked lost, then glanced from the head table to me. She finally came to stand before me and said, "Mr. Daniel, the final balance for the venue and caterer is ready. Will you take care of that tonight?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" She looked sheepish. "They told us you were the point person and the one to make the last payment. The price, $3,740. I peeked over her shoulder at the table, where Brandon had gone quiet. Kelsey was talking softly into his ear. His eyes darted away when I met his gaze. And suddenly it made sense. They weren't doing it just for kicks. They'd hired me out. Make Daniel a stranger. Use his money. Use his help. But on the night of the gala, shove him off into the corner and treat him like he's fortunate to be invited. I felt something inside me go silent. I slowly got up. Everyone in the room was staring now. I took the bill folder out of the coordinator's hands, opened it and looked at the total once more, then closed it, returned it, and said in an even voice, "That's not my table." Gasp. Snicker or two. Confusion everywhere. And I walked away. No farewell, no dramatic flourish, just an even, unhastened walk right on through the double doors and out into the night. I sat in my car for 10 minutes afterward, holding tight to the steering wheel. Thudding heart. Not because of embarrassment, not because of guilt, but because for the first time in a long time, I'd chosen me. And it was terrifying and utterly right. If you don't subscribe to this channel, you might never see it again. But if you are subscribed and actually use the bell, hurrah! You'll see the most interesting stories when you're in the mood to listen and watch. I didn't sleep that night. I wasn't angry, not exactly. It was something else. That dull, comfortable pain of being reminded once again where I ranked in the family. An afterthought. An ATM. The reliable one that was useful until I wasn't needed any longer. I walked back and forth in my apartment, kept awake, questioning if maybe I had overdone it, Maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe Brandon just got caught up in the chaos. So I waited. I waited for a text message, a call, something, anything that would explain what the fuck that was. Nothing. Until noon the second day. Brandon finally messaged me. No apology, no explanation, just one sentence. "Hey, can we discuss what happened last night?" I just sat there staring at my phone for a minute. Then I messaged back, "Sure, only if you're willing to tell the truth." We met in a cafe roughly halfway between where we lived. Brandon came late, as he always did, wearing sunglasses and playing it cool. He sat down with a sigh and told me, "Look, I didn't mean for it to be awkward." I didn't reply. He shifted uncomfortably. "Kelsey's family, they're very big on formalities. We were trying to keep the table organized." I raised an eyebrow. "You put me between the garbage?" He held up a hand. Okay, I get it. That part was not perfect. "Not ideal," I said, irritably, louder than I wanted to. "Brandon, I reserved that room. I arranged your entire dinner. And you sat me next to a mop bucket like a nobody." Diners at nearby tables glanced over. Brandon talked in a lower voice. "You weren't supposed to get the bill." I sat back in amazement. "That's your excuse." He rubbed his temples. "I didn't figure you'd mind paying for it. You said you were getting a bonus. I figured you could just expense it like you always do." And there it was. The assumption. The entitlement. All the years of me bailing him out. Rent, car maintenance, even that one time he put a credit card renting a vacation he never ended up taking. All running through my head. I had built this by being too kind, too understanding, too mute. I took a deep breath. "I'm done, Brandon." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not paying. Not a single cent. Not for the hall, not for the food, not for your honeymoon, if that was what came next. I'm done." He laughed. "Wow, okay. Guess I know where we stand." I nodded. "Yeah, you do." And then I left again. The repercussions were swift. My mother phoned the next day. "Daniel, Brandon just told me that you stormed out of his engagement party and left them with a huge bill. What are you doing?" I laughed. "Did he also tell you where I was sitting?" She stopped. "It was a huge party. Things fall through the cracks." "Not respect," I said. "Not if it's really there." She sighed. "He's your brother." "And I'm your son. Or did everyone forget that?" Silence. "I'm not going to act like that night never happened," I tacked on. "If you'd rather believe his side, that's your prerogative." I hung up. And for the first time, I didn't feel bad about it. Before we continue, don't forget to like this story, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next. It wasn't long before the rest of the family fell in line. And let me tell you, they fell in line fast. Most of them didn't even bother asking what happened. They just parroted whatever tale Brandon did tell them. That I blew up on some joyful occasion, that I abandoned my duties, that I was always too sensitive. I got texts from cousins I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly telling me that I had to apologize to Brandon. My obligatory aunt, the one who still invites me to Thanksgiving, phoned me and left a message stating, "You've always been the responsible one. Perhaps it's time to just let this go and stand behind your brother." Stand behind him. After he took advantage of me. After he humiliated me. Support wasn't the problem. I had been helping him his whole life financially, emotionally, sometimes even physically when he was too drunk to get him to home in college. And what had I ever asked for in return? Respect. That's it. A seat at the table. Apparently that was too much. The worst came from Kelsey's family. One of her uncles, a mouth I hadn't spoken to, put up a public Facebook post. "Some people can't handle not being the center of attention. Selfish behavior ruins beautiful nights." I wasn't named, but I was the subject, and everyone knew that. The thing that amazed me the most wasn't what they said. It was who kept silent. My parents. Not one word. Not even one non-committal, non-judging comment like, "Let's not spill drama." Nothing. Just crickets. And then the piece de resistance happened. Brandon and Kelsey charged me. I am not joking. They actually sent me a scanned line item bill with the subject line, "Engagement Celebration Contributions." It had it all. The location, the food, decorations, even the candles they did custom for party favors. Total, $3,740. Precisely what we owed for the night's bill. No apology, no note, just a crisply printed form asking to be paid within 10 business days. I waited 10 minutes thinking the punchline was coming. It never arrived. 3 days later instead, I got a second email from Kelsey, brief and snide. "Hi, just calling about the bill. Let us know if you have a cash flow issue. We can arrange a payment plan." I nearly threw my phone across the room. That was when I had it. This wasn't about one bad meal. This was a pattern, a system. They were relying on me to fund their milestones and shrink myself in the process. Fet them, but quietly, care for them, but never expect to be thanked. And if I had the guts to want even a tiny gesture of respect, I was tough. So I replied to Kelsey's email in 3 words. Invoice to client. Forever. And I blocked them both. Phone, email, the whole thing. Then I went one step further. I opened a new bank account, redirected my paycheck, bounced the joint streaming accounts that I'd been paying since Brandon mooched off my Netflix in 2016. And did. I catch my breath. For the first time in years, I could sense the air that filled my lungs to actually be mine. I didn't respond to anything for a while. No calls, no messages, no emails. I let the silence say everything. And slowly, the dynamics started to shift. First, it was little things. Brandon posted a cryptic Instagram story that said, "Some people can't stand to see you happy unless they're the center of attention." Kelsey reposted it with a heart emoji. I laughed. Let them have their pity party. Then I got a text from one of Brandon's groomsmen, a guy named Seth. We were never close, but we were friends. He wrote, "Hey man, not trying to stir the pot, but Brandon's saying you bailed on a bill he had to cover solo. That true?" I stared at the screen, took a deep breath. Then I replied, "Nope, I was never supposed to pay the bill. He got the venue in touch with me without telling me anything, didn't even reserve me a spot at the table." It took a moment, but then Seth replied, "Damn, that's a lot. Sorry, dude. That's messed up." That was the first time I knew something substantial. Not everyone bought Brandon's version. Some were starting to see cracks. Then the real fallout started. The venue called Kelsey. It seemed they still hadn't been paid in full, just the deposit, which I had paid months before. Brandon had assumed I'd cover the rest. The coordinator asked for the balance. Kelsey, from an unspecified source, lost it. They tried blaming the venue for the miscommunication. The venue forwarded them the email thread with my name all over it and zero mention of me agreeing to cover the full cost. So what did they do? They tried sending the invoice to my parents. I'm serious. They forwarded the bill to my parents and added a note. "Since Danielle was representing your side of the family, we're hoping you'll honor the balance." That's when my dad finally called me. And not out of concern, not even curiosity. Just this, "Son, this is ridiculous. Why are you being stubborn?" I almost laughed. "Me? I'm not the one charging my parents like I'm a corporation." He sighed. "You're making a scene." "No, Dad. I just wouldn't be taken advantage of." Another silence that lasted forever. If this story touched you, pass it on to someone else who needs to read it too. But do let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? What city and country? And has anything similar ever occurred to you or someone you know? Then he spoke, saying, "Well, your mother's upset." I nodded to myself. Maybe she should have said something when I was being placed next to the garbage. Click. Call ended. I did not cry. I did not break anything. I simply sat in the silence and let it all flow over me. The reality was so much simpler than I had hoped. They did not care about me. Not as a son, not as a brother, not as family. They loved what I could provide, money, time, labor, but never me. And the moment I stopped providing, they pretended I never existed. A week went by, and I got a card in the mail. It was addressed to me in fancy cursive writing I'd never seen before. Inside was a simple message. "Thank you for what you did. You didn't deserve that. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. T." No return address, just an initial. But I knew who it was. Tessa, Kelsey's cousin. We had spoken briefly at a past family function. I always thought that she seemed real, like someone who noticed things other people did not. And that one little action, that one note, was like the first drop of water after a drought. Someone had seen. Someone had witnessed what had happened. It was all I had to cling to. The next few weeks were quiet. Not peaceful, not yet, but quiet. I still checked my phone every morning, half expecting some sort of apology, some breakthrough, maybe even a ham-fisted attempt at reconciliation. Nothing came, but I stopped waiting for it. Instead, I started taking stock of everything I'd been through over the years. Not just Brandon, all of it. The summers, I skipped vacations to help my parents do house repairs. The birthdays I spent fixing other people's problems. The Christmas, I gave Brandon money to buy Kelsey a surprise gift, and he posted it on Instagram like it was his own idea. It was like I'd been sleepwalking through my role in the family, programmed to help, programmed to smile, programmed to say yes at any cost to myself. Until the night of that dinner, I'd never stopped to ask, why am I always the one who's sacrificing? And more importantly, would they ever do the same for me? I started journaling again, only a few sentences each night. It felt odd at first, as if I was talking to myself on paper, but it helped. I wrote down the facts, the receipts, the little betrayals I joked about for years because pretending it was a joke hurt less than admitting it wasn't. And somewhere between those pages, I found something I hadn't anticipated. Anger. Yes, but also clarity. I wasn't angry about the chair. Not really. I was angry about being invisible. It's about being useful but not beloved. Being loyal but never considered. I thought about that chair next to the trash, and I realized something. They didn't just place me there physically. They'd been placing me there metaphorically for years. I just finally saw it. I met a college buddy at a bookstore in town one night, got coffee afterwards, caught up, laughed about dorm disasters of yesteryear, and halfway through my story of the engagement dinner debacle, she cut me off and said, "Daniel, you're the kind of person people lean on. That's a great thing. But leaning becomes taking when it's not returned." Leaning becomes taking. That sentence echoed in my mind for days. It explained so much. My stance, my quiet, my exhaustion. I wasn't just tired of giving, I was tired of never being given to. A few days passed and I got around to responding to Tessa. I penned her a short note. "Thanks for the card. You saw what no one else did. That meant more than you know." She responded within seconds. "You deserved better. If you ever need to get coffee, let me know." It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even especially sappy. It was just nice. And I thought, I don't know when the last time was that a member of my own family was nice to me without expecting something in return. That stung more than I thought it would. Brandon's wedding day came and went. I wasn't invited. Well, correction. I was, I suppose, a mass text invitation to everyone who helped us get here. No personal touch, no apology, no assigned seat. I deleted it without responding. I heard through the grapevine that it rained during their outdoor ceremony. Kelsey's dress was stained, the sound system failed, and Brandon gave the speech about finding your true family in the people who show up. I almost laughed when I heard that. Because if he'd really purchased that line, he would have had to look me in the eye, and he hadn't done that since the evening he told me I didn't belong at his table. The last message I received from my parents was a forwarded email. It was from my mom. Subject line, "I hope you're happy." What was attached was a scanned receipt showing she'd paid the rest of Brandon's dinner bill. No message, no love, just that title. That punch. I didn't answer. Because for the first time in my life, I really was happy. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was finally truthful. It's been 6 months since dinner. I haven't spoken to Brandon, haven't spoken to my parents either. For a while, I waited to see if I would regret it. I waited for guilt to creep in, to begin whispering things such as, "Maybe you overreacted," or, "But they're family." It never did. Because the beauty of cutting off people who only come around when they need something, once you withhold your time, your money, your silence, they disappear. And you start to see how little they were actually holding you back. It turns out I didn't need them as much as I thought I did. It turns out they needed me a lot more.
I got a new job offer last month, project lead at a company I've been freelancing for the past year. Better pay, better hours, but the biggest difference? No one there expects me to shrink. They appreciate what I bring to the table. And most importantly, they make space for me in it. It's incredible how fast life improves when you let go of people who use your loyalty as a weight instead of a blessing. I used to think being the responsible one meant always saying yes. Now I understand being responsible means understanding when to say no. No to disrespect, no to one-sided loyalty, no to toxic traditions pretending to be family dynamics. Tessa and I are friends today, real friends. She checks in periodically, sends memes, asks about work. We grab coffee sporadically, talk about everything from weird wedding stories to our favorite podcasts. There's no pressure, no expectation, just connection. And when I leave those interactions, I feel seen. The way I never did at all those big family gatherings where I was always the behind-the-scenes worker, filling everybody else's glass full and forgetting to fill my own because it was empty. A few weeks ago, I hosted my own dinner party. Small, casual, just 6 people I like to be around. We ate pasta on mismatched plates, played games, told stories. Someone proposed that we make a quick toast. They raised their glass and said, "To found family, the ones who show up, sit with you, and never make you feel like an afterthought." Glasses were raised by everyone. I just smiled, because for the first time in a bit, I didn't feel like I was working for my keep. I felt like I was home. And if Brandon ever needs to find that kind of home too, he knows where to find me. But not at
The corner table, not next to the trash. He'll need to sit at the table I built with my own hands and ask for a chair like everyone else. Because now I know what I bring, and I will never let them forget it again.